In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
In the beginning, the void, the darkness, then light, then life. And from life came man, joining the caravan for the long, slow journey through a world of discovery, invention, exploration. His marks, his milestones, stretch out through the centuries. His footsteps echo down through the corridors of time. Time. July 1969 in Florida. The footsteps, the caravan quickened. The corridors shortened as man reached outside his world into another void. Today in Florida, they go about their lives, taking only a sideways glance at the reminders of that milestone. Reminders, images that vaguely jog our memory.
This Apollo Saturn launch control aiming for a planned liftoff time of 32 minutes past the hour. The start of launch window on this mission to land men on the moon. The countdown still proceeding very satisfactorily at this time.
Time, it plays tricks on us. It smudges and blurs the sharp edges of reality. But we turn the trick and summon up our own reality, images, sounds, to help us remember.
The batteries all look good. The next time we go internal will be at the 50-second mark where those batteries will remain, of course, on internal power during the flight. The lunar module, which has been rather inactive during these latter phases of the count, also is going on internal power at this time on the 2 batteries in the ascent stage and the 4 batteries at the descent stage.
They came 1 million of them to this place, drawn by the magnet of history in the making.
The astronauts, the prime crew, were awakened at 4:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight and proceeded to have a physical examination in which they were declared flight ready. They sat down for the normal astronaut fare on launch day. As far as breakfast is concerned, orange juice, steak, scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee. The target for the Apollo 11 astronauts, the moon, at liftoff will be at a distance of 218,096 miles away. The astronauts departed from their crew quarters after checking out their suits. They departed from the crew quarters at 6:27 a.m. and some 27 minutes later, 8 miles away from the crew quarters at the Kennedy Space Center, atop the launch pad at Complex 39, 6:54 a.m., the commander, astronaut Neil Armstrong, was the first to board the spacecraft. He was followed about 5 minutes later by Mike Collins, and finally Buzz Aldrin, the man who's sitting in the middle seat during liftoff, was the third astronaut to come aboard. The weather is certainly go. It's a beautiful morning for a launch to the moon. We expect a temperature of about 85 degrees in the Kennedy Space Center area. We're still go on Apollo 11 at this time. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
You guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. Yeah, they'll step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Apollo 11, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins. They and millions of others reached out and, in their own way, touched another planet. The images remind us that it happened, but not how it really was in the context of the times. George Lowe, one of the architects of the Apollo program, does remember.
If you think back at the period of the 60s, they weren't very happy years in general. We had, the ever-deepening involvement in Vietnam. We had riots on the campuses, riots in Watson and elsewhere, 3 terrible assassinations. A great deal of strife and turmoil in the country. And yet all of this was overcome by one single event, and that was Apollo 11. The decade ended with it. It was a fantastic adventure that I believe helped overcome all of the bad things of the decade. It represented Americans to ourselves, and particularly to the rest of the world, as we like to see ourselves and as we hope the rest of the world likes to see us.
The equipment of Apollo, some of it is now in museums, artifacts from an age of discovery. These strange-looking objects, they're there as reminders that after all, it did happen, and it happened the way we remember. The facilities of Apollo, now silent and still. In Houston, Mission Control, the nerve center of manned flight operations. The chapters of space history, first Mercury, then Gemini, then Apollo, were written by the people who sat at these consoles. And these chapters of history came at us with breakneck speed. Christmas Eve, 1968, in the beginning, Apollo 8, the footsteps were quickening. A few months later, Apollo 9. The long years of preparation were contracting into days, hours, minutes. The first manned flight of the lunar module, the Spider. Apollo 10, the dress rehearsal for the real thing. In 5 months, 3 missions, and in the 7th month, the payoff. Then, the celebrations. The images and the sounds fade in our memories, but some things we can't forget. Names: Apollo 11, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins. Other names: Grissom, White, and Chaffee. They remind us that it wasn't all success and celebration. There was failure and tragedy. Early in 1967, the 3 crawled into the command module at Cape Kennedy for a test. There was a flash fire. All 3 died. After the shock came the long, painful job of picking up the pieces, learning the lessons, coming together for a common goal. The remains of the launch structure stand as a reminder that the goal was reached. These strange shapes, what do they mean? These towers of steel, what are they? Monuments or leftovers from some earlier age of discovery? In the long history of man, in the slow journey of the caravan, what point do these mark? Historian Arthur Schlesinger: I have no doubt at all that if posterity remembers the 20th century for anything, historians 500 years from now looking at the 20th century, it will be because it will be the century when man first began to break his terrestrial bonds and began the exploration of space. So that's it? As man learned, moved on, and discarded the earliest structures, he came to these. They're marked for further milestones, reserved for future missions, other reaches to other different voids. Historians 5 centuries from now will mark this century, this place, and they will further note that from the void, life, man, it took eons to reach this point. But once there, the centuries and years compressed into days, hours, split seconds of exploration. The wheel, the engine, the airplane, they came slowly at first, then with increasing velocity. And then this, so huge, so powerful, so different that no ordinary modern name would suffice. They reached backward through antiquity to Roman mythology, and they named it Saturn. Saturn. His father was heaven, his mother earth. Organization, the mammoth machines, the incredibly detailed technical knowledge, the dedication. It was all harnessed, sharpened to a fine edge, and focused. The program developed and matured. Apollo 17 was launched at night, and even the old hands, the ardent veterans of the space program, couldn't help but feel the awe, wonder, and excitement. In the excitement of the split second of exploration, man doesn't stop to freeze the moment in history, to look at it and ask what it means. He simply lives it out. But in the Apollo program, on their way to the moon, they found a way to live out their strange moments in those strange spacecraft. It may be the peculiar nature of Americans to make history and to have fun in the making. They relaxed and had fun because we, were confident of success. But the program teaches lessons. Confidence is a transitory thing. Apollo 13.
Hey, Houston, we've had a problem here.
Just say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem. Stand by, 13. We're looking at it.
3 days out, barreling toward the moon, an explosion. No one would see the problem for some time, but they went to work on it. The people of Apollo coalesced into a single dedicated unit, linked themselves with their technology, and cheated tragedy. A new chapter in space history was written in Mission Control. Eugene Kratz was the flight director when the problem developed.
Throughout this entire next several days, there was one dominant thought in the minds of all of the flight controllers. We teach them that between God, country, and your own capability, that you can solve any problem that may occur in flight. Throughout the entire course of Apollo 13, there was never any doubt that we'd get the crew back. So there was a very positive approach, and with this kind of approach, you can solve just about any problem that comes up.
Solve any problem, country, capability, old-fashioned words during a time when some said the old-fashioned virtues were forgotten. Well, they weren't forgotten. They were translated into action, into programs which took man soaring above the surface of the moon, away from Earth, but always looking back on it. These divided thoughts, the moon, the Earth, run through the Apollo program a sort of theme. They went there flying in their graceful machines, but they always thought back to where they came from. Perhaps that's natural. The moon is a strange place for men to be flying to. If it's strange for men, for mankind, it's stranger still for the individual man. Harrison Schmitt, Dr. Harrison Schmitt, a geologist, he touched the moon and remembers how it was when Apollo 17 was making its descent, the last flight to the moon, the last time that man walked on its surface. Schmitt remembers how it was.
One's first feelings are a mixture, a very complex mixture of humility, excitement because of something you had planned to do was being accomplished, but of a great attention to detail, to the detail that you had thought about and learned about for so many years prior to the actual event. That detail keeps you occupied with where your hands are and where your feet are, which rung they might be. You try to remember, well, am I at the bottom of the rung? And then as one moves away and tests his way on the surface of the moon and looks around, and in my case, looked around a very magnificent valley, you see a rolling, hilly country that is interspersed with some blocky fields of rocks that you know because you studied the photographs, and you saw them as you descended surround large craters that have been formed in that rolling countryside. These rolling dark hills merge in the distance a few kilometers away with the very smooth but very bright colored slopes of the massifs. And they rise with a majesty to rocky tops that are almost beyond description because there's nothing like this that we have seen on Earth.
The Sea of Tranquility, Hadley Rill, Taurus Littoral. They were once strange names on the map of the moon, but the men of Apollo gave reality to the names by being there and showing us the places. They explored 60 miles of its surface, and their travels took them to craters, foothills, to explore, to observe, and to sample. The hard rock proof of Apollo, enshrined in the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., 478.8 grams of microbreccia, under glass for mere earthlings to see and whisper about. Other rocks from the moon, 840 pounds, are being studied and talked about by scientists in laboratories around the world. Not only rocks, tens of thousands of photographs of those strange, exotic features of the moon. And telemetry, data on tape, facts, figures. The studies will go on for years, and the answers will come slowly, answers to questions about the moon and the solar system. The science of Apollo is not merely concerned with samples from past milestones, yesterday's missions. In a special room in Houston, men sit at consoles and command instruments on the moon to send them today's data. And they receive it today within 8 seconds of the command. Science, that's the key. And technology. And something else. In the drama of the moment, few stop to think of the essential element, the one thing that made it happen. People came to this program. Government people, university people, contractor people. They brought to Apollo skills and knowledge and determination. This source of human intellectual energy was marshaled, focused, challenged. What came out of the effort was not just a very successful program, but a rich national resource of vast proportions. Crystals from the moon, the symbols of the science of Apollo. Behind it, causing it, was the spirit of Apollo.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry month of December. Now, May is the month. That's right. May is the year of the month. When, much to my surprise, a pair of bunny eyes. That's the truth. You do that in West Texas and you get
We saw something of this spirit. We shared in the adventure, the excitement, the euphoria of being there. We shared it with the men who bounced across the surface of the moon.
Look at the size of that biggie. It is a biggie, isn't it?
And the surprise of discovery. We were there too, all of us, watching, vicarious explorers.
The big boulder. Okay, we're headed that way. You get the tongs, John? Yep. I'll carry the rake. Look at the size of that rock. Can't believe it. I can't even. Okay, let's go on back. I am.
And the meaning, the significance of an occasion. That too came to us, flashed into our living rooms on our 19-inch window on the universe.
Throughout the world. We hope that this will be a symbol of what our feelings are, what the feelings of the Apollo program are, and a symbol of mankind that we can live in peace and harmony in the future.
There was also pride. They put up the flag and then posed for pictures as any visitor to a foreign place might do. The flag of each mission stood there as a reminder that we had been there, but there was the realization that in truth it belonged to all the people. There are no boundaries on the moon. The focus was the moon. That's what it was all about. But by reaching up there, we, in a sense, came back here.
As one stands and scans a 360-degree panorama of his own, one of the first objects in the dark lunar sky that you see is a bright and beautiful bluish globe that we call Earth. This globe represented to all of us, I think, not only home, but a very fragile place that we have come back and felt that needed not only protection but understanding.
They first went there in 1969. They last left there in late 1972. Between the beginning and the conclusion, they came to feel, to dimly perceive what it was all about, to come to a perspective on the meaning of it all. Poet Archibald MacLeish has said it better than most. To see the earth as it truly is, small and blue and beautiful, in that eternal silence where it floats, is to see ourselves as riders on the earth together, brothers who know now they are truly brothers. The excitement of the mission, the tension and drama of the splashdown, they remain only in our memories. And in time, they'll be replaced in the future by other missions, other memories. The moments of Apollo may be over, but the understanding and the discovery, they go on. And the full meaning, the real meaning, may yet be in the future too. But for now, for the present, the images and the sounds provide meaning enough to each in his own way and to each in his own time.
Apollo Saturn V, designed to propel the United States manned lunar landing mission. 3 million parts from the labor of people at 20,000 companies, universities, and government facilities. A first stage assembled in Louisiana, using parts from Kansas, Missouri, Washington, and many other states. A second stage shipped to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida through the Panama Canal from California, with a stopover in Mississippi for testing. A third stage flown from California to Florida. An instrument unit from Alabama. The spacecraft came from factories in Oklahoma, New York, and California, and electronic systems came from such widely separated sources as Massachusetts and Wisconsin. Major equipment to prepare, test, launch, guide, track, and recover the spacecraft are the products of Minnesota, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Ohio, Tennessee, and other states. The Apollo 4 mission, unmanned, first flight for Apollo Saturn V, was launched into Earth orbit November 9, 1967. The Saturn V and its spacecraft stand as high as a 36-story building, and at liftoff weigh more than a U.S. Navy destroyer. Its Earth orbital payload is 10 tons greater than John Glenn's entire Mercury Atlas space vehicle of 1962. It is moved from its assembly building by a massive crawler transporter over a roadway designed to handle the combined weight of more than 12 million pounds. It is watched over in minute detail by an extraordinarily complex array of facilities. It answers to a chain of electronic eyes and ears that circle the world. And it flies a course dictated by an assembly of advanced computers. It is the result of the work of some 300,000 Americans in the disciplines of science, engineering, technology, and management. The entire space vehicle was to be launched in the first mission, rather than follow the step-by-step approach of earlier programs. A view of the Earth from the North Pole shows the planned course of Apollo. 2 circular orbits and 1 elliptical orbit. In addition to the liftoff from the Kennedy Space Center, the first, second, and third stage burns and insertion into circular orbit. Other high points of the mission were the reignition of the third stage over the Western Atlantic, the first spacecraft propulsion system burn over the Eastern Atlantic, an 11,000-mile peak altitude over the Indian Ocean during the elliptical orbit, the second and longest spacecraft propulsion system burn over the Western Pacific, the re-entry, and finally a landing in the Pacific a few hundred miles northwest of Hawaii. During the 25,000-mile-per-hour re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, the spacecraft was to be guided, as in the lunar mission, along a roller coaster flight path, heating as it encountered the atmosphere, cooling as it climbed back toward space, reheating as it again plunged into the atmosphere for the final descent. Countdown for the launch started at the Kennedy Space Center at 6 a.m., November 7, 1967, with liftoff scheduled for precisely 49 hours later. Inexorably, launch operations moved forward. Minor problems were encountered, but readily solved. Apollo 4 was tested more persistently than any previous American space vehicle. There were no indications of systems malfunctions. The countdown delays, so familiar in the early missions of previous programs, did not occur. Almost exactly as planned, Apollo 4 lifted off at 1 second after 7 o'clock, November 9th, 1967, with its first stage delivering 7.5 million pounds of thrust. Two minutes and 32 seconds later, as scheduled, the first stage burned out and separated, having consumed 4.5 million pounds of fuel. The separation and second stage ignition were also recorded by cameras carried on board the vehicle, 40 miles above the Earth. The camera gave engineers a close-up look at another event, the separation of the interstage structure. This was critically important because clearances were extremely small between the structure and the engines. Shown in animation, the second stage performed perfectly for more than 6 minutes. A source of major developmental problems, the stage propelled Apollo 4 to an altitude of more than 100 miles. Like the first stage, the second stage cut off and separated almost exactly on schedule. The third stage ignited and inserted Apollo 4 into a circular orbit, where it would remain for some 3 hours. In slightly more than 11 minutes, Apollo 4 proved out Saturn stages that had required years to develop. But the mission had over 8 hours to go. Now the orbiting Apollo 4 had to be checked out remotely in anticipation of the next series of events, and ground support facilities had to be evaluated. Flight controllers had to prepare the third stage for its first reignition in space, a capability which must be proved for the Apollo lunar mission. One of the few irregularities of the entire flight occurred at this point, when data suggested that a valve on the Saturn V third stage had not closed as planned for the reignition. But technical skill paid off. The flight controllers quickly revised the pre-ignition sequence to compensate for the potential problem. The third stage was fired as scheduled, propelling Apollo 4 into its elliptical orbit. "5 minutes and 25 seconds later, the stage shut down. Saturn V, whose guidance computer had made over 300 million calculations since liftoff, had placed the spacecraft on course. The third stage and a test model of the spacecraft lunar module fell away. The launch vehicle had done its job. A few moments later, the spacecraft's own propulsion system ignited and burned for 16 seconds, giving the spacecraft the velocity necessary to reach a peak altitude of more than 11,000 miles. The spacecraft was oriented so that its heat shield was shaded from the sun, soaking in a temperature 150 to 200 degrees below zero. The contrast between this cold temperature and the extremely high temperatures of re-entry would put the heat shield to an especially severe test. As Apollo 4 climbed, a camera pointing out the spacecraft window photographed part of what a future Apollo command pilot will see of our planet. These photographs were selected from a series shot every 11.4 seconds during a 2-hour, 12-minute period as the Earth passed in front of the spacecraft window. Apollo 4 reached 11,232 miles above the Indian Ocean at 5 hours, 46 minutes, 48 seconds after liftoff, and began its descent to Earth, responding to the pull of gravity, increasing in velocity as if it were speeding down a long hill. Some 2 hours, 20 minutes later, the spacecraft propulsion system again ignited, burning this time for 4.5 minutes. This burn accelerated the spacecraft toward a re-entry into the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, the speed anticipated for the re-entry of the Apollo lunar mission. The command module, which would contain the flight crew in a manned mission, was separated, then oriented with its heat shield forward. At about 8 hours, 40 minutes after liftoff, Apollo 4 re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. Temperatures on the heat shield, which was less than 3 inches thick, soon reached 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This was 1,000 degrees hotter than the launch pad flame bucket when Apollo 4 lifted off. Yet the temperature inside the command module never exceeded 70 degrees. Could we have seen the actual command module on its path toward Earth, it would have resembled a meteorite from space. The command module splashed into the Pacific Ocean within sight of its recovery ship, the USS Bennington. Although charred, the 5.5-ton command module, like the entire 3,000-ton Apollo Saturn V, had passed the test. Further, the chain of ground facilities and the launch and flight teams had shown themselves equal to the task. Some 8.5 hours after Apollo 4 roared off the launch pad at the Kennedy Space Center, the mission ended. The road to the moon is a long and difficult one, and the flight of Apollo 4 is a successful beginning.
This is Apollo 5, the first all-up unmanned flight test for the lunar module, the spacecraft in which man will make his first landing on the moon, the final major piece of Apollo hardware to be tested. Now the lunar module, dubbed LM-1, sits in its protective technological cocoon atop the tested and proven Saturn 1B launch vehicle, waiting for the boost into the environment for which it was designed, space. It will not return to Earth, but will continue in a gradually decaying orbit until it re-enters and burns up. In the blockhouse at Cape Kennedy, the men have assembled to do the job. From Marshall Space Flight Center, from the Kennedy Space Center, and from the Manned Spacecraft Center, they have come to get the mission into orbit.
RTC, we use Site Select, Guido, GNC, and ECOM to Mila.
In Mission Control in Houston, flight controllers wait to take over command of the mission as soon as it lifts off the pad. Among these men are 4 who watch with special interest. Astronauts Jim McDivitt and Rusty Schweikert, who are scheduled to fly the first manned lunar module. And in a support room next to the control room, astronauts Frank Borman and Bill Anders, who will fly the lunar module on its rehearsal of the first manned lunar mission.
Go flight. GNC. Go flight. Procedures. Go flight. AFD. Go. Network. Go flight. Computer soup. Go flight. RTC, you on AFD conference. RTC is on AFD conference. Roger. Best of luck.
Number 2 is go. Okay, go ahead and reload.
All flight controllers preconditioned for attachment 2 of the internal count.
So men wait in tracking stations around the world for the flight of lunar module number 1. For it is their information that will tell us whether it is safe for man. But what is this craft called the lunar module?
LM is a vehicle that has been designed for a particular job, and that job is to land on the lunar surface. It doesn't look like an airplane or a spacecraft in the old sense. It's not smooth. It's very thin skin, has a descent propulsion stage, a large descent engine which will be used to land the vehicle on the lunar surface in a manner very similar to that of a helicopter, except that instead of using blades for a lift, we'll be using a rocket propulsion engine. And the upper stage, the cabin and ascent engine stage, will be used to lift off from the lunar surface and make the subsequent rendezvous with the command and service module.
So the LM is really the
the taxi that provides the transportation between the orbiting command module and the lunar surface.
The lunar module is a unique engineering concept. Designed and built on Earth, it is out of place on its native planet. The airless surface of the moon, the empty reaches of space, this is where it belongs. The comfortable pull of Earth's gravity, the protective, life-giving atmosphere, these, to the lunar module, nicknamed LEM, are the hostile elements. Its engines cannot lift its own weight against the pull of the Earth. If it could fly on Earth, the aerodynamic forces of the atmosphere would tear it apart. So how do you test the lunar module before it flies in space? You test its engines in the man-made vacuum of an engine test stand. Its operating systems in gigantic vacuum chambers. You tumble it on stands in engineering laboratories. But the real test is when it flies.
Roger, I am in flight control. Final status check, booster. Go. Retro. Go. Fido. Go. Guidance. Go. Econ. Go.
While the primary instructions for the mission are carried on board the LEM, the men on Earth in mission control can take over and fly it if necessary. But why all these elaborate precautions and details in an unmanned flight?
Unmanned LEM-1 mission is one of the key missions in the entire lunar landing program. You must remember that the LEM is every bit as important as spacecraft as the command module, the Gemini, or the Mercury was, and this is the first flight of the vehicle. Naturally, we'll all be looking at it with very, very keen interest.
Flight CVTS Black 2, verify your go for launch.
Roger, we are go for launch. Okay, all flight controllers, let's play it cool.
Launch sequence start. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, ignition detected.
Transmitted 5 enter.
Clock start, 5 enter.
Thrust okay.
Affirmative. Program 11.
Okay, TLK P11.
Roll pitch start.
Roll and pitch. Go on IP. Go IP. Stand by for nose.
The launch and insertion into Earth orbit are on the nose.
Cutoff plus 50.
Roger, cut off plus 50.
The aerodynamic shroud is jettisoned.
Roger, nose cap jet.
Now, the next critical step, the opening of the protective metallic petals and the separation of Lunar Module 1 from its cocoon.
RTC booster, transmitting slot deploy.
Roger. We are transmitting slot deploy.
Okay, all flight controllers, we have slot deploy A and B relay indications, no physical monitor indication.
Everything is nominal.
We get a go for separation.
On schedule, the reaction control engines of Lunar Module 1 pull it free of its protective cocoon. The space butterfly rests its wings before it flies. Now begins the long coast preparatory to the first firing of the descent engine. While the LEM coasts, tracking stations pinpoint its position and determine its orbit with accuracy. In Houston Mission Control, engineers are testing the many systems on board.
The LEM, I think, is like a big line of dominoes, every one of which has an effect upon the one it's associated with. And nothing can occur in one that doesn't somehow affect the others or the total mission.
So, LEM 1 coasts on, guided by its onboard programmer, seen only by the radar eyes of the tracking network, watched over by the men in Mission Control.
We will not pulse the engine. The maneuver is go at this time based on the onboard. Roger, Houston. Roger, Houston is go for the burn.
The lunar module nears the Australian coast. The Carnarvon tracking station takes command. The time is nearing for the first burn of the descent engine, the first rocket engine designed to be throttled, a necessary feature for a lunar landing. This will be its first burn in space.
Mark, predicted ignition.
Dips on.
Dips on.
10%.
10%.
Oh. We got a ping caution. Program caution.
Roger.
Dips off.
But something goes wrong. Instead of the full 38-second burn, the engine shuts down after only 4 seconds. An early look at the data indicates the onboard computer did not allow for the tolerances and errors within this most complex of all missions. It shut down the descent engine when it sensed an error of less than 1.5 seconds. And computers don't argue.
Capability of a crew, I think, is very significant in that you can change your mind in flight. You don't have to be restricted by the rather narrow capabilities of any pre-programmed mission.
Faced with the unexpected, the computer made the only decision it could, and it was the wrong one. Now the success of the mission rests squarely on the team in mission control and in the tracking stations. The nominal plan is out the window. On communications lines all over the world, the alternates are discussed. But the final word must come from Flight Director Gene Kranz.
I guess our best plan here, and I think the way we're going to go ahead, is alternate Charlie. Go ahead. In the attitude you've got. Go ahead. At 6:15 elapsed. Go ahead. Okay.
The long throttle burn of the descent engine would be cut to 2 minutes and occur during its pass over the United States. Then the descent engine would go to 100% thrust preparatory for the biggest test of the mission, fire in the hole.
Let's suppose that we're descending using the descent engine and suddenly we discover some fault in the descent or the ascent stage for that matter. Well, we would like to return to a safe lunar orbit. So what we would do is essentially abort, fire the ascent stage while it's still connected to the descent stage, and then milliseconds later fire the pyros that separate the two stages.
Roger, you have dips arm.
We show the ignition discrete. We show front chamber pressure. Front chamber pressure is current. We're burning, the rates are good. It's a good burn. We go.
Over California now, up and down the power scale. The first rocket engine capable of controlled variations of its propulsion force is passing the test. This is the time of maximum stress on the lunar module and on the men, flight controllers, astronauts, and engineers, to whom Lunar Module 1 represents years of their professional lives. And now there is another factor. A second test for the ascent stage is a burn to depletion of its propellant. This was to come one orbit after fire in the hole to test the restart capability of the engine. Now, if it looks critical, this burn will be combined with fire in the hole.
Max thrust. Raj.
Push stage.
Staging. Raj, staging. Apps on. Okay, let's watch this. We got 60 seconds. Let's make a good go-no-go here.
Flight fighter, we're looking at White Sands track. It is good. It's solid. We're go.
The burn is good. Lunar Module 1 is performing fantastically well as a spacecraft. The shutdown order is given after 60 seconds of ascent burn. Now it is time for the burn to depletion. However, as the lunar module continues its flight, the Earth has rotated under it until it has moved nearly off the tracking range. LEM-1 will now pass over only one station, Hawaii, that can give the new and accurate information its computer needs, and can command the engine to restart. It looks like on the coming pass, Hawaii will send the update, and on the next, send the command signal. But now another problem crops up.
Flight, we're going to run out of RCS and B here the way we're going.
Okay, Jack, let's stay cool.
Because of the new mode of flight, the Attitude rockets are running low on propellant. It looks as though these small but critical engines may not last for 2 more orbits. But an update of orbit information shows that Lunar Module 1 will just pass within range of the Carnarvon station, whose range has been extended by the addition of the tracking ship Coastal Sentry Quebec, CSQ. Flight Director Kranz makes his decision. Update at Carnarvon and fire at Hawaii. It's go for the burn.
Guidance from flight, we're having a lot of dropouts.
Roger, flight.
ECOM, let him know when he's clear to command again. Go.
But the pass over Carnarvon is too short. The full update does not get to the lunar module, including an instruction that would have drained some of the propellant from the ascent engine tanks into the tanks of the Attitude rockets. Without this propellant, it is doubtful if the final ascent burn can be ignited. Now it gets tight. Tank pressure is just enough. It has to be this orbit. The flight team is under the gun. Cran's plan is time critical. The rest of the information will be sent up early during the Hawaii pass. After a quick guidance check, the ascent propulsion system will be fired. The signal to ignite the engine is PRA-5.
You have clock and compare pulses.
That's negative, Flight. We got a spacecraft reject on that. We don't show any clock compare pulses, Flight.
Retransmit. Guidance execute PRA start.
It's go. The burn works. And at shutdown, it holds. All systems are still operating as expected, beyond what was expected. It's been a tremendous test of the engine, and that's what it was all about.
Do you want me to stand by here?
Negative, you've done it all, and good work, Gary. Beautiful job.
Throughout the flight of Apollo 5, the lunar module had performed magnificently. All systems operated either as predicted or far exceeded the predictions. The inability of an onboard computer to cope with a programming error was overcome by the infinitely more flexible mind of man. Hundreds of additional commands sent from Earth put the lunar module through a demanding real-time test. So, Lunar Module 1 tumbles on through space, its orbit decaying mathematically until it is destroyed by the atmosphere of an Earth on which it was created, but to which it cannot return. Lunar Module 1 was the first space test of a manned vehicle designed to explore another world. This was the flight of the machine. Soon, it will be time for man.
December 21st, 1968. The shortest day of the year, but in significance, perhaps one of the longest in the flow of history.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We are still go at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit. We have liftoff. Liftoff at 7:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have cleared the top.
Tower clear, 13 seconds.
The United States was undertaking the most distant voyage ever attempted by man. For the first time, 3 Americans rode the Saturn V moon rocket.
Following Houston, you are go for staging, over. Staging. Step complete, step. Roger, understand, step. We hear you loud and clear, Apollo 8. Okay, the first stage was very smooth, and this one is smoother. Apollo 8, Houston, your trajectory and guidance are go, over. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, you're looking real good, Frank.
Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders were about to leave their cradle Earth and face the infinite frontier.
Apollo 8, Houston. Go ahead, Houston. Apollo 8, you are go for TLI, over. Roger, understand. We're go for TLI.
TLI, Translunar Insertion. This was the commitment. Borman, Lovell, and Anders were ready for the maneuver that would send them to the moon. As the world listened and watched, its people were overtaken by a new awareness. an awareness that they were perhaps witnessing the overture to the ultimate destiny of man.
Lovell confirms ignition. And the thrust is okay, Booster says.
On board the spacecraft and in mission control, the men of Apollo 8 watched the readouts. Velocity buildup in feet per second. The numbers snowballing toward the velocity that would allow the spacecraft to escape Earth's gravity.
And Borman says we've got SECO. Cutoff was right on the second.
With the cutoff of their third stage engine, Apollo 8 was traveling faster than had any men before, a coasting uphill climb against the pull of their native planet. Now the third stage, the S-4B, was just useless mass to them. It was jettisoned, then later placed into an orbit around the sun. The crew of Apollo 8 turned around for a look.
Houston, Apollo 8, how do you read?
You're loud and clear, Frank. How are you?
Not sure, we're loud and clear. We're taking pictures of the S-4B. The post-separation sequence is completed, and we seem to have a high gain.
Give us a clue as to what it looks like from way up there.
Roger. I can see the entire Earth now out of the center window. I can see Florida, Cuba, Central America, the whole northern half of Central America, in fact, all the way down through Argentina and down through Chile.
You picked a good day for it.
Houston, for information, I'm looking through the scanning telescope now, and I see millions of stars, most of them venting from the S-4B.
The crew of Apollo 8 now settled down to the routine of the outward flight. Systems checks, observations, navigational star sightings.
Jim, they've just been looking at your marks with respect to accuracy, and they figure they're within a couple thousandths of a degree of the theoretical optimum.
Lovell's proficiency in navigating the spacecraft with its onboard optical instruments would eventually earn him the nickname the man with the golden fingers. His speed was such that he would be requested to slow down so that the earthbound machines recording the data could keep up with him. The accuracy of his sightings was virtually flawless, symbolic of the entire mission. A mission so accurate that several of the planned mid-course corrections would be dropped as unnecessary. Astronauts, spacecraft, flight controllers, computers. The precision was fantastic. Then, on the second day out, the world looked in on the crew via television.
This transmission is coming to you approximately halfway between the moon and the Earth. We've been 31 hours, about 20 minutes into flight. We have about less than 40 hours left to go to the moon.
So Apollo 8 glided on silently, farther from Earth than man had ever before been, a microscopic dot of life in the cosmic void. Around the world, in Goldstone, California, Madrid, Spain, Canberra, Australia, the gigantic antennas of the Deep Space Network tracked Apollo 8, received its communiques, picked up the voice of its telemetry. Only for the 40 minutes of its transit behind the moon on each orbit would Apollo 8 lose contact with Earth. Then, on the day before Christmas, the network zeroed in on the spacecraft television antenna for the second broadcast to Earth.
Right, you're all looking at yourselves as seen from 180,000 miles out in space. Mike, what I keep imagining is if I'm some lonely traveler from another planet, what I think about the Earth from this altitude, whether I think it'd be inhabited or not.
You don't see anybody waving, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just kind of curious whether I would land on the blue or the brown part of the Earth. You better hope we land in the blue part.
Shortly after they turned off the television camera, Borman, Lovell, and Anders ended their long climb away from Earth. Crossing the point where the gravity of Earth and Moon just balanced, they became the first men to fall toward another celestial body. Now the time approached for the most immense commitment of the mission, Lunar Orbit Insertion, LOI. A burn of the service module engine would place Apollo 8 into orbit around the moon. Up to this time, without further major maneuvers, the spacecraft would loop around the moon and return to Earth. Once the burn was made, Apollo 8 would be held by the moon's gravity field until a later burn would push it free.
Apollo 8, this is Houston at 6804, your go for LOI.
Okay, Apollo 8, let's go.
You're riding the best bird we can find.
Lunar orbit insertion would take place on the backside of the moon. With the moon between the spacecraft and the Earth, all contact would be lost until it appeared on the other side. In mission control, they anticipated LOS, loss of signal, from Apollo 8.
We'll see you on the other side.
Now, mission control and the world could only wait. Wait for the first contact with Apollo 8 as it emerged from behind the moon.
We've got it. Apollo 8 now in lunar orbit. There's a cheer in this room. This is Apollo Control Houston, switching now to the voice of Jim Lovell.
By 60.5. Good to hear your voice.
The burn was as close to perfect as possible. Later burns would circularize the orbit, and the three astronauts would circle the moon 10 times in 20 hours. Sunrise, sunset, every 2 hours on an alien world. And they would take pictures, still photographs as well as motion picture film, here seen at a much faster rate than orbital velocity.
Apollo 8, Houston, what does the old moon look like from 60 miles, over?
Okay, Houston. The moon is essentially gray. No color. Looks like plaster of Paris. Or sort of a grayish beach sand. We can see quite a bit of detail. The craters are all rounded off. There's quite a few of them. Some of them are newer. Many of them look like, especially the round ones, look like hit by meteorites or projectiles of some sort. Langrenus is quite a huge crater. It's got a central cone to it. The walls of the crater are terraced, about 6 or 7 different terraces on the way down.
The world saw and heard the first live telecast of the lunar surface.
Hey, Bill, how would you describe the color of the moon from here?
The color of the moon looks a very whitish gray, like dirty beach sand, and with lots of footprints in it.
Don't these new craters look like pickaxes striking concrete, leaving a lot of fine haze dust?
Scientist, engineer, astronaut, the world, all followed the progress of Apollo 8. For this was preparation, an advanced scout marking the way for those who would follow, those who would orbit, those who would land, navigate, track, observe, record, describe.
There's no trouble picking out features that we learned on the map.
Certainly looks like we're picking the more interesting parts of the moon to land in. The backside looks like a sand pile my kids have been playing in for a long time. It's all beat up, no definition, just a lot of bumps and holes. The area that we're over right now gives some hint of possible volcanic, so I really can't eyeball it at the moment to pin that down. No, there are some craters and buildups definitely suggest volcanic activity.
Then a Christmas Eve message the world could not forget.
Welcome from the moon, Houston.
Thank you.
The moon is a different thing to each one of us. I know my own impression is that it's a vast, lonely, forbidding type existence or expanse of nothing. It looks rather like clouds and clouds of pumice stone.
Beyond technology, beyond science, Apollo 8 was bringing to the world a new awareness, an expansion of mind and spirit that must forever alter the perspective of humanity, physically and philosophically.
And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
There was little time for the crew of Apollo 8 to reflect. The next job was to make sure that the spacecraft was ready for the most critical maneuver of the mission, the firing of the service module engine for TEI, trans-Earth insertion, and the trip home. There was no go, no-go decision on this one. It had to go.
All systems are go, Apollo 8.
Thank you.
For the final time, Apollo 8 passed behind the moon, out of contact with Earth, for this most critical of all the burns. On the ground, men waited.
Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston.
Apollo 8, over.
Hello, Apollo 8. Loud and clear.
Roger. Please be informed there is a Santa Claus.
That's affirmative. You're the best ones to know.
3 very tired astronauts were on their way home. And with them rode an army of engineers, scientists, technicians, programmers, flight controllers, all those whose dedicated efforts were Apollo 8. After catching up on their rest, homeward bound, there was more a mood of elation, contrasted with the outbound loneliness.
I told Michael you guys are up there, and he said, who's driving?
That's a good question. I think Isaac Newton's doing most of the driving right now.
We were enjoying the holiday, in the Christian world, Christmas, and we paused for a moment in our celebrations to watch 3 travelers heading home. As many of us sat down to our Christmas meal, Borman, Lovell, and Anders were enjoying theirs.
It appears that we did a grave injustice to the food people. Santa Claus brought us a TV dinner each, which is delicious. Turkey and gravy, cranberry sauce, grape punch, outstanding.
Roger, Jim. Glad to hear it. You know, we're down here eating cold coffee and bologna sandwiches.
As on the way out, there were periods of work. The navigational ability of the spacecraft and crew was proving phenomenal. And periods of rest, a single man on watch.
Well, Ken, that just leaves you or I. How about you and I? Anything exciting happen today?
Real quiet down here. Everybody's smiling. Everything's pretty calm, like it should be on Christmas.
Very good.
Yeah, Milt says we're in a period of relaxed vigilance.
Very good. We'll relax, you be vigilant.
The final television transmission, 97,000 miles out, farther than man had been on any previous mission, but now tantalizingly close to home.
I think I must have the feeling that the travelers in the old sailing ships used to have. You've gone on a very long voyage away from home, and now we're headed back, and I have that feeling of being proud of the trip, but still happy to be going back home and back to our home port.
Every second brought the spacecraft closer to its fiery entry, the final plunge to the safety of Earth. On the morning of December 27th, the word was given to Apollo 8. The pyrotechnic devices that would separate the command and service modules prior to entry were armed.
Apollo 8, Apollo 8. Your go for pyro arm. Everything's looking good.
Roger, everything's looking good here, Ken.
On schedule, the command module jettisoned the service module to expose the main heat shield, aligned itself to entry attitude, and slammed into the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, faster than man had ever traveled until Apollo 8. A tracking aircraft took these films of the entry, the spacecraft seen as an incandescent fireball. With the temperature on the heat shield reaching 5,000 degrees, the communications were blacked out. The men in Mission Control waited once more.
Ken Mattingly just put in a call and just frankly labeled it a radio check. He's gotten no responses yet. Ken Mattingly puts in another call. And there's Jim Lovell.
We're in real good shape here.
Real fine.
The landing was right on target. Later, Frank Borman would report passing over the recovery ship as Apollo 8 drifted down toward the sea on its parachutes. As Borman, Lovell, and Anders stepped onto the carrier deck, a huge and patriotic celebration broke loose in Mission Control. A celebration echoed by the hundreds of thousands of men and women who were Apollo 8.
Again, it's Apollo Control here. I'm not sure how well our voice is getting out. There is a tremendous roar, an undercurrent of roar in the background. And I have never seen the degree of this emotional outpouring in any previous mission, including Alan Shepard's. I've seen rallies in locker rooms after championship games. I've seen happy politicians after elections, but none of them do justice to the spirit pervading this room.
But the triumph of Apollo 8 was beyond the bounds of nationalism. It was a fruition of the ages of humanity. The first Chinese setting off a gunpowder rocket, the Englishman, Newton, the German, Kepler, the Russian, Tsiolkovsky, the American, Goddard. For one moment in history, the nations of Earth were united in the eternity of deep space. In Havana, in Washington, in London, in Moscow, in Tokyo. All of mankind joined 3 Americans, orbiting 60 miles above a stark, lifeless world.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness.
The vast loneliness up here on the moon is awe-inspiring, and it makes you realize just what you have back there on Earth. The Earth from here is a grand oasis in the big vastness of space.
Give us, O God, the vision which can see thy love in the world in spite of human failure. Give us the faith to trust the goodness in spite of our ignorance and weakness. Give us the knowledge that we may continue to pray with understanding hearts. And show us what each one of us can do to set forward the coming of the day of universal peace. Amen.
Christmas, 1968, when man first cut the silver cord of Earth's gravity to orbit the moon. Saturn V had provided the power to take him there. The command and service modules had sustained him. But man cannot begin his mastery of the moon until he can land on its inhospitable surface and take off again. To do this, he needs the third basic piece of hardware, the lunar module. The lunar module is a new concept designed exclusively for use in the vacuum of space.
a two-man taxi used as a shuttle between the lunar surface and the orbiting command module. But before men can use the lunar module as an operational lunar spacecraft, it must be tested in space, first in Earth orbit. This was the primary purpose of Apollo 9, the third manned Apollo mission. Jim McDivitt, Dave Scott, Rusty Schweikert, three men to qualify this new machine, to make ready for the moon. This was the most complex system ever sent into space. First, the Saturn V, 7.5 million pounds of thrust from its first stage alone, over 3 million working parts. Then the lunar module, well over 1 million parts. And the command and service modules, over 2 million parts.
35 seconds in counting.
March 3rd, 1969, the countdown for the launch of Apollo 9 was underway. Each piece checked out before launch.
Computer monitors, 20 seconds. Guidance release, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. Commit. Liftoff. We have liftoff at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
You are go all the way. Everything looks good. Roger. And Apollo 9 at 5 minutes. Everybody's happy as a clam here. Looking good. So are we. Very good.
Once in orbit, the crew turned the command module around preparatory to the docking with the lunar module, which was still attached to the S-4B, the third stage of their launch vehicle.
And this is Houston.
Roger, it's out there, and we're turned around and proceeding with the station keeping and docking.
Oh, tremendous, Apollo 9. Thank you. Go, Apollo 9.
We're about 25 feet now on the closing point.
Copy.
Houston, we're hard dock.
Apollo 9, understand hard dock. Good show.
The next maneuver, to activate the springs which would eject the lunar module command module configuration from the S-4B.
Apollo 9, you are go for ejection.
Roger, go for ejection.
Houston, Apollo 9. We've had a successful ejection, and we're presently separating very slowly from the S-4B. We've got them in sight out all the windows.
Oh, sounds beautiful.
Next, the S-4B engine would be ignited to send it away from Apollo 9, away from possible interference with their complex mission.
Apollo 9, Houston.
Looks like we're going to be right down his tailpipe.
No ignition on the S-4B.
It's on the way. It's just like a bright star disappearing in the distance.
For the rest of the first and second days, Apollo 9 would fly in this configuration. 4 burns of the service propulsion system would optimize the orbit for the coming maneuvers. These burns could be roughly correlated to the mid-course corrections of a lunar mission. Then, on the third day, the crew cleared the tunnel connecting the command and lunar modules of the probe and drogue docking mechanism. This would open the tunnel for the transfer of McDivitt and Schweikert from the command module to the lunar module.
Houston, just for your info, tunnel clearing went pretty much according to plan.
Apollo 9, Houston's reading you loud and clear.
All right, I know another piece of info for you. The drogue looks as good as new.
Roger, Apollo 9.
With 2 spacecraft now in operation, new code names were introduced. The cone-shaped command module known as Gumdrop, the insect-like lunar module called Spider. Throughout the day, McDivitt and Schweikert would test every system of the lunar module. The major event of the day would be a burn of the lunar module descent engine. This engine, which will eventually be used for the actual lunar landing, would be under the manual control of Spacecraft Commander McDivitt for a large portion of the burn.
Okay, there's ignition.
Now, McDivitt put on a virtuoso performance, playing the throttle of the lunar module, each variation of thrust a note in a technological symphony.
Starting the throttle. 40%. Going down to 10%. Coming back up to 40%. Coming back down to 25%. Back up again. Okay, coming up to 40%. Throttle profile is complete. Just let it sit there.
The engine so necessary for the lunar landing had performed flawlessly. Another burn of the service module engine would complete the day. But first, McDivitt had a message.
Okay, I've got to get something to eat. All I've had so far today is a little bag of fruit salad. I'm about to starve to death.
Roger.
It had been a busy time for the crew of Apollo 9, but it was only the beginning. The next day, McDivitt and Schweikert returned to the lunar module. This time, Schweikert opened the front hatch and stepped onto the front porch, the first all-up test in space of the Portable Life Support System, or PLSS, and the suit to be worn on the moon.
Okay, Spider, gumdrop. The hatch is open. No sweat. It just swings like it ought to swing. Hey, I can see Rusty's foot. Can you see me wiggling my toes?
Schweikert was attached to the lunar module only by a safety tether. With his own life support and communication systems, he was virtually an independent one-man spacecraft. His call sign as the third link in communications, Red Rover.
Oh boy, what a view. That's spectacular. It really is.
Alone in the command module, hatch opened, Dave Scott also had work to do.
Okay, Dave, come on out.
Okay. Come on, let the camera run here. Taking pictures of everybody taking pictures.
Yeah, you want to retrieve a sample?
Right, that's a good idea.
Now, both Scott and Schweikert were retrieving experimental thermal samples attached to the exteriors of the lunar and command modules. Because of Schweikert's upset stomach the previous day, his extravehicular transfer from the lunar module to the command module, to be used if the transfer tunnel were blocked, was curtailed. But the remaining EVA, which lasted for 37 minutes, demonstrated not only that an extravehicular transfer was possible, but gave a good workout to the spacesuit and life support system that will later be worn when exploring the surface of the moon. It had been another long, hard day, the first and only EVA scheduled for Apollo until the exploration of the lunar surface. But the next day was the biggest test of them all. With McDivitt and Schweikert in the lunar module, Scott alone in the command module, the two vehicles undocked. Looking more an abstraction than a machine, the lunar module danced an inverted pirouette before its lone partner in space. Firing its descent engine, the lunar module would pull away from the command module to a distance of about 100 miles. Now, with the support of Mission Control, McDivitt and Schweikert would locate Scott alone in the command module and perform the critical rendezvous maneuvers. Each burn representing a firing that would one day take men from the surface of the moon to the spacecraft, which would take them home again.
20 seconds.
We have ignition. Burn looks good.
It's a good burn, Dave. Oh, very good. Thank you.
The lunar module had left its bulky four-legged descent stage in orbit. Now only the ascent stage and crew would return. Each burn a step in a computerized choreography which would lead to the rendezvous.
Coming in the sunlight. Great. You're the biggest blast falling a living star I've ever seen. Okay, we're 5 feet per second, about 610 feet. Okay. But you're upside down again. Hey, I was just thinking, one of us isn't right side up. Okay, I have us about 370 feet. Okay, looks closer than that. Doesn't it, though?
How does that sports car handle, Jim?
Pretty nice.
In order to dock, McDivitt needed to use a sighting device on the lunar module docking window. However, the brilliance of the sunlight made using the sight difficult. Alone in the command module, Scott helped talk McDivitt in.
Well, you're coming fine. Just keep coming easy like that. It's going to go forward to your right a little bit, relative to your body. Well, it's translation, but I can't tell what my attitude is, Dave. If I don't see it, so there it is, there. Now you're coming in. Keep it coming. You're almost there. You're about there. I have capture. Really good. Okay. Why don't you take a break for a while? Man, when I take a break, I'm going to bed for 3 days.
It had been a full 5 days, but the lunar module had checked out beyond expectations. In all aspects, it seemed ready for the moon. Now it was time to jettison the ascent stage of the lunar module to free the command module for the remainder of the mission. When a safe clearance had been established, the final test, the ascent engine of the lunar module was ignited to burn until its propellant ran out. The crew of Apollo 9 watched as their lunar module, now crewless, arced away from them.
Hey, it's really moving out. I hope I didn't forget anything on board it. He's sure a long ways away.
For the last 5 days, the flight of Apollo 9 settled into a routine of picture-taking and observations, with an occasional burn to refine the orbit. But this routine was a look into the future, a future when manned orbiting space stations, operating in concert with unmanned scientific satellites, could examine the Earth from this vantage point. When cameras such as those on Apollo 9 will take multiple spectrum photographs from visible light through the infrared, locating hitherto untapped geological and biological resources. And perhaps even more important, when man can look at his world with a new perspective, quantitatively and qualitatively observe the results of his actions on the face of his world. For with the power man controls, he can change the nature of his planet. He can no longer think of unrelated occurrences. He must realize that he exists within the structure of Earth's planetary ecological system. He can observe with this new technology the results of his interaction with his environment. Water pollution on the coast of the United States. Air pollution of a major city. The results of damming a river, of irrigating a desert. But Apollo 9 was not an orbiting laboratory. It was the third manned mission of Apollo, and it was time to come down. The prime recovery area had been shifted several hundred miles because of weather conditions in the original recovery zone. With the appropriate changes made to its flight path, Apollo 9 made its final descent into the atmosphere. The crew took these pictures of the re-entry and opening of the parachutes. The 10-day mission of Apollo 9 had met all its major goals. The ability to work and make a contingency transfer in the spacesuit and the PLSS had been proven. The capability of the lunar module to fulfill its vital role in the exploration of the moon had been established. The flight of Apollo 9 showed that we are indeed ready for the next step in meeting what may be the most significant challenge of our time, the conquest of the moon.
On May 18, 1969, at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, Apollo 10 stood ready on pad 39B. It was the work of 400,000 people and would carry 3 of them to the moon, 2 of them within 9 miles of its surface, the closest man had ever been. It was a flight that had to be made before others could safely land. By 10 a.m., Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan were ready and received an affectionate send-off from an upstart beagle from a comic strip. Snoopy, a pilot himself and longtime mascot of the Apollo Quality Control Program, really deserved to go along. Anyway, he was there in spirit and in name, and throughout the complex and difficult mission, good humor prevailed. A mood which the world shared. A good thing to have when you're out there alone, 250,000 miles from home.
Seconds and counting, guidance internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. Engines on.
Seems to express extremes of every sort. An inferno below, a blizzard of ice above. Overpowering thrust contrasting with seeming reluctance to go. Seconds and 280 tons of fuel later, the rocket cleared the pad. directors found that they had been within 7,000ths of a second of their planned time for liftoff. It was going well.
1 minute,
Right on
44
time,
seconds, downrange 7
right on
miles,
target.
12 miles high.
In Houston, the flight controllers breezed through Earth orbit, an injection towards the moon with deceptive ease and calm.
Still there with you. You're looking good.
The three astronauts had been very active in getting color TV put aboard and were determined to share their experience in space.
Hey, we got the color now. Okay, I'll try and adjust it for you. Yes, sir. It's looking great. No sweat. We got it right in the center of the screen, Gene. It looks like the sun's really bright on it. Tremendous.
In the first transmission, they brought virtually the entire world into their cabin to witness their first critical maneuvers, separation and docking with the lunar module.
Roger. Ken, it's looking real stable to us. We show you closing finally. Roger. Talk to you in a second, I hope. Roger. Map, and we're there. Got 2 grades. Roger. You saw the docket, Charlie. Any master alarm, everything looks snug.
Apollo 10 had a rugged flight plan. It combined the features of the 9 flights before it and was a full dress rehearsal for the infinitely complicated lunar landing to follow. Fortunately, between the Earth and the Moon, there's a long coast, with some time to unwind after liftoff and subsequent maneuvers. This gives the astronauts an opportunity to adjust to a weightless environment in which there is no up or down, no sunrise or sunset, and no one else around. In the second color telecast, the 3 astronauts introduced their 2 stowaways, Snoopy and his pal Charlie Brown.
Good grief, Charlie Brown. Now you're going to bring on that whizzer here.
Okay, we got Snoopy now.
Well, he's been quiet for 2 days. He's going to get a chance to do a little whooping here in the next couple days.
Roger, we noticed the resemblance there, too.
Snoopy
Thanks
wearing...
a lot. I didn't know Tom had a big nose like that.
On TV and in onboard motion pictures, the crew appeared deceptively idle. For the average viewer, the astronauts' humor and their relaxed appearance tended to obscure the 8 days of intense concentration. On they sailed. By Tuesday morning, May 20th, they were 150,000 miles from home and would soon be feeling the pull of the moon's gravity. At that point, their speed would increase from a low of 2,500 miles per hour. On Earth, at 1/2 mile per hour, Apollo 11 had started its journey to the moon. In test facilities and simulation chambers, the crew of Apollo 11 continued the exacting and intense training which had already filled their lives for so many months. Edwin Aldrin, lunar module pilot. Neil Armstrong, spacecraft commander, the one slated to be the first man to set foot on the moon. Michael Collins, command module pilot. The training goes on. suit tests and previews of their hardware. Simulated lunar gravity training, underwater and in the air. The role of lunar landing might have fallen to any of the astronaut crews. It might even have been the crew of Apollo 10. As it is, the burden of reality, the excitement of what is almost unreality, has been given to these three. Meanwhile, the Apollo 10 trajectory was so accurate that 3 of the 4 mid-course corrections were skipped. On the 4th day, 74 hours into the flight, a precise burst of the main engine put them into orbit around the moon. Then another burst, using only a few ounces of fuel, fired at just the right instant for a precise length of time, made their orbit nearly circular at 69 miles, and they prepared for descent in the lunar module. Astronauts Stafford, Young, and Cernan became the second group of 3 to see this sight, and they were the first with the potential to see it from a point 60 miles closer than it appears in this scene. It was a prime objective of Apollo 10 to duplicate the Apollo 11 flight plan in every way: the timing, spacecraft performance, the performance of men and equipment on Earth. The only minor difference would come now. This is their lunar track as it was displayed in the control room at Houston. And this is the view they had from the command module, looking past the thrusters of the lunar module.
Jack, you're looking at some of those depressions that go right through some of the craters now, and they're very flat, and where they're shallow, we can see right to the bottom of them.
Now it was time for Stafford and Cernan to crawl through the connecting tunnel. Right away there were problems. While Houston and the world waited, they finally solved a pressure problem in the tunnel and fixed a radar system defect. Then there was an unexplained twisting in the docking collar, but it didn't get worse. As they disappeared behind the moon for the 11th time, they were still together. When they next appeared, they were 50 feet apart, flying formation. John Young radioed his companions below. "You'll never know how big this thing gets when there ain't nobody in here but one guy." And they answered, "You'll never know how small it looks when you're as far as we are." Here in the lunar environment, as Apollo 9 had done in Earth's environment, the crew was able to check out the lunar module's landing radar, navigation, and guidance systems. They were also proving out the descent rocket, an engine which can be throttled like an ordinary car. The reflection in the window comes from the astronaut's sleeves as he took the pictures.
Down among us, Charlie. Roger, I hear you weaving your way up the freeway.
The waterless sea of tranquility was their target, and the descent orbit swept them in lower and lower for the first pass over landing site number 2. This is a preview of what the crew of the Apollo 11 will see when they head in for lunar landing. Apollo 10 made the same run at the same angle under the same lighting conditions. Only shortly after splashdown, this film was being used by the 11 crew in the lunar landing simulators in Houston. That's a characteristic of all photography in space. The pictures one sees in print and on television are actually there as a bonus, for the primary purpose is most often scientific, and there are dozens of experts in many fields impatient for prints the moment a spacecraft returns to Earth. In the science of geology, there is disagreement over the formation of the moon's surface. Some believe it is the result of volcanoes, some say meteors, some say both. In this scene, the altitude is 9 miles, not much more than that of a commercial jet. But the clarity of detail is far greater, since there are no clouds or haze, and no gases acting as distorting filters. As the crew told Mission Control, it looks so close. All you have to do is to put your tail wheels down, and you're there. They were close, all right, within 50,000 feet, a level at which the command module could still have come down and rescue them if necessary. One more burn of the descent engine, and they would indeed have been right down among it.
Sample is sample number 12.
Here on a mock lunar surface in a hangar at Houston, the Apollo 11 landing crew is practicing with equipment and drilling in procedures for that fast approaching day.
Sample number 13 is a vesicular but rhyolitic looking basalt.
Into this pocket over Neil Armstrong's knee will go the so-called contingency sample, the one that guarantees that something will be brought back even if they leave in a hurry. During the actual mission, every sample will be described and photographed. The crinkly material on the outside of the lunar module is for protection against extremes in temperature. By pulling a lanyard, they open the panel protecting the 2 scientific experiments which they will leave behind. One is a battery of reflectors which will bounce back laser beams from Earth. The second is a moonquake detector. These panels will collect energy from the sun and keep the batteries charged. Next, they will take bulk samples of the lunar soil. In this training session, just sawdust, the lightness of which may help them adjust to the expected workload in lunar gravity, which is 1/6 that of Earth gravity.
The characteristics of the lunar surface that we see, that is, certainly bring back...
The bulk samples are sealed in return containers, better known as rock boxes.
And concentrate on those types of...
At the end of 22 hours, 2.5 of them working outside the lunar module, the Apollo 11 landing crew will blast off from the surface of the moon, leaving the descent stage where it landed. Apollo 10, however, now sweeping into the second pass over the prime landing site, slightly lower still, had only to separate from the descent stage and move up to rendezvous with the command ship. It did not start well. The backup guidance system apparently did not function properly. The spacecraft took a sudden and unexpected 180-degree turn. The astronauts took over manual control and stabilized the lunar module in 8 seconds. After a few missed heartbeats, the ascent continued smoothly, and the crew was amply compensated by the sheer beauty of the ride. During the maneuvers that followed, the crew proved out the LEM's rendezvous radar at its maximum range, 350 miles. Fixed cameras were running in both spacecraft as they slowly closed together. After docking, the ascent stage of the lunar module was released. Its work was finished. It glided off toward orbit around the sun. Even farther below, they could see the descent stage continuing to circle the moon. The big day was finished. A whole string of new firsts had been added to the books. Things looked good for a lunar landing, but there was still the homeward leg to think about. During the two-day coast to Earth, there was time to reflect on some of the small achievements, along with the big ones. For example, life on board was enormously improved over other Apollo flights. The food was better. The schedule permitted them to take their meals and rest periods all at the same time. They used to be staggered, as had sleep periods. And most important to the crew, there were no instances of motion sickness or colds or intestinal disease. One reason for this might have been the special exercises planned before the flight. Head movements to avoid nausea, tumbling to help adjust to weightlessness. Altogether, the crowded space seemed very comfortable, and spirits were right up to the level at which the flight began.
that we felt very strong about as we show you our last telecast here of the Earth is that we felt very strong about sharing with you some of the adventure, the excitement, the challenges, and the rewards of these 8 days. And through this endeavor, we hope that we've made you and millions of people of the world more of a part of the history that's being made in our day and age.
And so from the 5 of us, Gene Cernan, John Young, Tom Stafford, Snoopy, and Charlie Brown, we'd just like to say goodbye. And we'll see you back on the water in the South Pacific. In fact, we should land about 300 miles east of Samoa in approximately 5 hours. So from the crew of Apollo 10, and goodbye.
Because of Stafford, Young, and Cernan, because of Apollo 10, Apollo 11 stands on 39A, and the countdown is proceeding. Now, a green light for a lunar landing.
Contact light. Okay, engine stop. APA at a descent. Mode control both auto. Descent engine command override off. Engine arm off. 13 is in.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
And we're getting a picture on the TV. There's a great deal of contrast in it, and currently it's upside down on our monitor, but we can make out a fair amount of detail. Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Sunday, July 20th, 1969. Around the world, nearly 1 billion people watched this moment on television as the first man from Earth prepared to set foot upon the moon.
At the foot of the ladder, the limb footbeds are only depressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches, although the surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder. Roundness is very fine. I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
All that we have accomplished in space, all that we may accomplish in days and years to come, we stand ready to share for the benefit of all mankind.
As we explore the reaches of space, let us go to the new worlds together, not as new worlds to be conquered, but as a new adventure to be shared.
Since the earliest time, man has imagined this moment, the moment when his fellow man would make the first journey to the moon. Now the time had come. In the 6th decade of the 20th century, the ancient dream was to become a reality. The flight of Apollo 11 was the culmination of many years of planning, working, building, and testing. Thousands of people had contributed toward this day of accomplishment. The great Saturn V rocket and the complex Apollo spacecraft had been assembled together and moved to the launch pad. The equipment and techniques and personnel had been proved in earlier missions, and now they were ready. The astronauts chosen for this mission had flown it many times in ground-based simulators. They had all been in space before. They had trained carefully and well, and now they too were ready. Astronaut Michael Collins would pilot the Apollo Command Module. Astronaut Edwin Aldrin Jr. would pilot the Lunar Module. And astronaut Neil Armstrong would serve as mission commander. Armstrong would be the first man to step upon the moon. July 16th, the day had come. The moon awaited. The men rose early, ate breakfast, and dressed in their spacesuits. Other astronauts had made this journey to the launch pad, but never with such anticipation. 9:32 a.m., July 16th. Three hours later, the Apollo Command Module moves forward to extract the lunar module from the third stage of the launch vehicle. Both are moving at more than 17,000 miles an hour. Docked together, they will sail 250,000 miles across the sea of space and into orbit around the Earth's nearest neighbor.
Oh, loud and clear now, Mike, and we understand that you are docked.
During the three-day journey to the moon, the astronauts kept busy. Checklists, navigation and observation, housekeeping. They must work in a weightless environment, keeping their spacecraft and themselves in good condition. Data must be collected and reported. Experiments must be performed, including photography both inside and outside the spacecraft. Because of the film speed, these actions appear faster than they actually were. July 19th. Apollo 11 slows down and goes into orbit around the moon. The bright blue planet of Earth now lies 238,000 miles beyond the lunar horizon. Astronauts Armstrong and Aldrin, now in the lunar module, separate from the command module. Astronaut Collins remains behind. Preparation for the lunar module descent to the moon now begins. The command module assumes the new name, Columbia. The lunar module will be called the Eagle. From Columbia, Michael Collins' camera sees bright rays of the sun reflecting patterns of color from the surface of the Eagle. In this strange metallic bird rides the ancient and endless dream of all mankind. The command pilot can see detail which his camera cannot record. The 4 landing pads of the lunar module are fully extended and locked in place. The Eagle is poised and prepared for its descent to the lunar surface. The moon landing craft rocket engine fires to slow it down and to place it on the pathway to the landing site in the Sea of Tranquility. There is tension and caution as the Eagle flies lower. Warning lights blink on as the computer tries to keep up with the demand for control data, but the status remains go.
Eagle, we got you now. It's looking good, over.
Roger, copy.
Eagle, Houston, after yaw around angles, S-band pitch, -9er, yaw, +18. Roger, you're a go to continue power descent. You're a go to continue power descent.
Altitude now 21,000 feet, still looking very good. Velocity down now to 1,200 feet per second.
You're looking great to us, Eagle.
Give us a reading on the 1202 program alarm.
Roger, we got you. We're going at alarm.
Good radar data. We're now in the approach phase, everything looking good. Altitude 4,200.
Houston, you're a go for landing, over.
Roger, understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet. Stop alarm.
Altitude 1,600. 1,400 feet, still looking very good.
700 feet, 21 down. 33 degrees. 100 feet, down at 19. 1201.
1201. Roger, 1201 alarm. We're go. Same type. We're go.
Altitude, velocity light. 3.5 down. 220 feet. 13 forward. 11 forward, coming down nicely. 200 feet. 4.5 down. 5.5 down.
60 seconds.
Lights on. 6. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. That's 40 feet, down 2.5. Picking up some dust. 4 forward. 4 forward, drifting to the right a little. That's okay. Contact light. Okay, engine stop.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Through the window of the Eagle, Armstrong and Aldrin see what no human eyes have ever seen before. Their spacecraft casts a long shadow across the undisturbed dust of centuries. 7 hours after landing, after careful preparations for later ascent were completed, Armstrong opens the Eagle hatch and begins his climb down to the surface. The first footsteps on this strange new world must be taken cautiously. The moon has only 1/6 the gravity of Earth. The nature of its surface was still unknown.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Once on the surface, Armstrong scoops up a small sample of lunar dust and rock, precaution against the possibility of an emergency takeoff. According to plan, astronaut Aldrin now descends from the Eagle. He and his equipment would weigh 383 pounds on Earth. Here, they weigh about 66 pounds. For a brief moment, the first men on the moon stand and look at the stark, lonely landscape around them, an experience which no one before them can share. But there is much to be done in the limited time which they can stay on this airless, cloudless satellite of Earth. This sheet of metal foil traps and holds particles from the sun, the so-called solar wind, or barrage of solar energy, which constantly strikes the moon's surface. Results of this experiment will be taken back to Earth to reveal new secrets to anxious scientists. An American flag is left behind on the moon, together with medals honoring American and Soviet spacemen who lost their lives in earlier space tests, and a small disc carrying messages of goodwill from 73 nations on Earth. A plaque on the lunar module reads, "Here, men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." Through a specially made television camera, viewers in many nations on Earth were able to watch the astronauts as they walked and worked on the moon. Despite the bulky spacesuits and the backpacks containing oxygen, temperature control, and communications equipment, the Apollo 11 crew found they could move easily about the surface. Because there is no wind or rain on the moon, these footprints will remain for centuries. In addition to collecting rock and soil samples, the explorers leave behind a seismometer. This highly sensitive device would send back valuable information on external meteoroid impacts, as well as internal lunar movements. 100 prism laser reflector would help man to measure the exact distance from Earth to Moon to an accuracy of 6 inches. These were the first of many experiments which will be taken to the Moon to provide man continuing and increasing knowledge about the Moon and the vastness of space beyond. After 2 hours and 31 minutes, the first lunar explorers had completed their research on the Moon. A night of rest in the lunar module, countdown preparations, and they were ready to come home.
Tranquility Base, Houston. Guidance recommendation is pings, and you're cleared for takeoff. Roger, understand. We're number 1 on the runway. 7, 6, 5, port stage, engine arm ascent. Beautiful. Very smooth. Very quiet ride. There's that one crater on there.
Thousand feet high, 80 feet per second vertical rise.
Eagle Houston, you're looking good at 2. Ping, zags, and missed all agree. We're going right down US 1. Eagle Houston, going right down the track. Everything's great.
Horizontal velocity approaching 2,500 feet per second.
Roger.
Some 120 miles to go until insertion.
July 21st. The Eagle and its 2-man crew lifted off the Moon perfectly and climbed slowly to rendezvous and dock with the mothership, Columbia. While Armstrong and Aldrin explored the Moon, astronaut Collins had kept a long and lonely vigil in the Columbia. The approaching Eagle was a welcome sight. Later, the 3 men would share their reflections on this adventure with the world.
I believe that from the early space flights, we demonstrated a potential to carry out this type of a mission. And again, it was a question of time until this would be accomplished.
I think it's a technical triumph for this country to have said what it was going to do a number of years ago, and then, by golly, do it.
The relative ease with which we were able to carry out our mission, which, of course, came after a very efficient and a logical sequence of flights, I think that this demonstrated that we were certainly on the right track when we took this commitment to go to the Moon.
I just see it as a beginning of a new age.
Once again, the bright blue planet of Earth rises over the lunar horizon. For those who had witnessed man's landing in the Sea of Tranquility, the moon would never again appear quite the same. July 24th, dawn in the Pacific. Apollo blazes across the heavens, coming back to Earth at 25,000 miles an hour. President Richard Nixon, who had talked with the astronauts by telephone while they were on the moon, was waiting aboard the recovery carrier to welcome the returning voyagers. The president later expressed the nation's response to this historic mission.
Some way, when those two Americans stepped on the moon, the people of this world were brought closer together. That it is that spirit, the spirit of Apollo, that America can now help to bring to our relations with other nations. The spirit of Apollo transcends geographical barriers and political differences. It can bring the people of the world together in peace.
To protect against any possible lunar contamination, the astronauts put on airtight special garments before coming aboard the rescue ship. They transferred directly from the helicopter to a mobile quarantine van, in which they would be flown back to the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, Texas. July 27th. The journey was ended. They were home again. Ahead lay 3 weeks of isolation, medical tests, and mission debriefings. Then visits to major cities of America and abroad. The details of their unique mission would be relived and remembered so that others might learn what they had learned, and that future travelers in space might build upon their experience. The rock and soil samples brought back would be examined and analyzed by scientists in many lands. They would reveal new insights into the origin and the age and the composition of the moon, and perhaps new knowledge of the Earth as well. Already experiments left on the moon were sending back revealing new information. The mission was successfully completed. The Eagle had landed the first men on the moon, and Columbia had returned them safely to Earth. Wherever man journeys tomorrow across the ocean of our universe, history will remind him that Apollo 11 was mankind's first encounter with a new world.